going to have them prior to, right, come up and speak?
Oh, well, we can do this with, we're going to be doing what we've been doing before, and as we're going to address each COA individually, and there will be an opportunity for the applicant to speak to council if, to answer any questions.
Okay, so just read off. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to make a motion. Actually, should I read them first? Are we going to have them come up and speak or make the motion?
Why don't you just read the description of the COA and then make
Yes,
a motion?
COA 2010-048, applicant Gasper Landscapes, Inc., 242 South Chancellor Street, King Residence. The applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness for the installation of a cedar pergola, and a stone retaining wall. Harb recommended the approval of the application as presented. So I don't know if we're going to have them come up to speak, or should I make the motion first?
Wait, make the motion first.
I'd like to make the motion to follow the recommendation of the Historic Architectural Review Board and direct President of Council to sign the following certificate of appropriateness, thereby approving the historical appropriateness of the application with final approval by the Code Enforcement Officer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is the applicant here? Oh, you are. Okay. Does council have any discussion regarding this application? No? Okay. No questions for the applicant? Okay. Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the second application is COA 2010-049H, applicant 5 South State Street, Enterprises, Inc., 5-11 South State Street, Temperance House. The applicant is seeking certificate of appropriateness for the installation of AZAC, fascia, and trim, installation of new hardy plank siding, chimney reconstruction with existing brick, and new bluestone cap, and replacement of wood dormer window sills. Harb recommended denial of the application as presented, denying the use of hardy plank and AZAC in all instances, and noting that Harb has approved the use of hardy plank on additions but not on original buildings. The board recommended the original material should have been repaired first, and if required, replaced in kind. So I do believe that the actual existing brick and used bluestone cap was repaired and approved.
Is the applicant here for this one?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Cook. I represent the applicant.
Gotta come to the microphone.
Yeah, I'm going to have you come over to the microphone if you wouldn't mind. And Jim, you're here to represent Harb, okay? Harb recommended denying the request because the materials that were being used were not those that had been would be typically approved by Harb for this particular application. Is that correct, Jim?
Correct. But
Okay.
as a point of clarification, and I believe that the chairman of the Architectural Review Board can confirm this, the application had several aspects, one of which was the chimney replacement with the bluestone cap, another of which had to do with the sills on the dormers and the end caps on the front overhang. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Harb approved the replacement of the chimney because it was a replacement in kind, and approved the installation of the sills for the dormers because that too would be a replacement in kind, and the end caps of the overhang because that would be a replacement in kind. I'm correct also? Yeah, okay.
Jim, do you want to come up to the microphone so you can answer for the viewing public?
So I believe that the issue has to do with the replacement of materials with AZAC and hardy board, correct?
Yeah, everything else was determined to be replacement in kind.
Okay.
The chimney, the cap, any other wood trim on window.
And they would not have required a COA anyway,
That's
right?
correct, yes.
Okay, so it's the specific replacement, the use of the hardy plank and the AZAC that are under discussion at this point.
correct.
That's correct. And the only thing I would bring to the council's attention is I believe that you all are in possession of the certificate of appropriateness application, and attached to that were several jurisdictions, Harb instances where AZAC was approved as a replacement material, and our position is that the AZAC was used to replace the trim and the rake board on the roof, and it was the same size and dimension as what was removed. The only difference is that AZAC is not wood, it's a man-made material. And for the board's edification, if I may approach, I have a piece of AZAC. This is the material that was used. Wherever it was applied, it was the same dimension and profile as the existing wood, and in all instances it was painted, as was the hardy plank that was installed, that was painted. And the hardy plank, you can tell from the pictures, was used on the front of the newer addition, I guess the addition that filled in the old alley, and also on the two dormers on the existing structure. That's where the hardy plank was used. The AZAC was used on the roof rakes, the profile of the first floor, and the profile of the second floor, the trim, in those two instances. And we had asked HARB to approve the use of that material, and we were denied.
Okay. Jim?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain why
Yes.
you've...
It really comes down to a consistency issue for us. What we've been trying to do is be very consistent when it comes to, let's say, changes to existing structures. For example, how we've been talking about window replacement, where we encourage replacement windows to either be repaired first. If not, then they're replaced in kind. We discourage clad windows in existing structures, and doors are the same. So this was a similar consistency that we thought of, trying to maintain the integrity and the character-defining features of the building by not substituting new, man-made, very perfect materials with organic materials in this case. So that would be the rake trim, all the wood trims and all the wood moldings. So we just felt that we're trying to be consistent. We're trying to apply the standards equally to all projects in the borough. And we just felt that in this case, applying artificial materials to this existing structure was not appropriate for the historic district.
And have you approved these materials for use on historic buildings in the borough?
Not for existing ones. We have, as we noted, we have had approved hardy plank for additions and new construction. We have been having a lot of discussions about new materials, particularly AZAC, but the feeling of the board is that it's just not appropriate for existing structures. We'd be open to looking at additions or new structures as they come in.
Does council have questions for either the applicant or Mr. McAuliffe?
Just so I can understand the background a little bit, and good evening, Mr. Toadline. As I understand it, this was not an issue in the original application because it was not anticipated. It came about during the course of work, of construction?
That's correct. We had initially applied for a certificate of appropriateness to replace the roof. When the roof was exposed, it was discovered not only that there was major deterioration of the timber under the roof, but also the trim work that connected into the roof was extremely deteriorated. In order to replace the roof and to attach the flashing, this material had to be replaced first to tie the flashing in to put the roof on. So it was an issue of time. In other words, they could not replace the roof until that...
Can you move closer to the microphone because we're recording this?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
thank you.
You could not replace the roof until the trim work had been replaced due to the way that the flashing was being connected to the new roof. So when it was discovered at that point, a decision was made on site. The quickest way to replace it was using the AZAC, and that's why the AZAC was used.
Which brings me, I guess, to my next question, and you just maybe answered it, and that was it an issue of timely completion of the work that drove selection of that material to be installed, or something else?
Well, it was a combination. It was an issue of timely completion. It was also the fact that the roof was exposed, and there were concerns about water infiltration and weather. So, in addition, I believe that the permit for the scaffolding was only permitted for, I don't know, 2.5 or 3 weeks. So it wasn't just a let's get it done issue. It was also the roof is now exposed, and there's no way to protect it over a period of time to attempt to try to get some kind of milled wood to replace this, so that's why the AZAC was used. It wasn't just a timeliness issue, it was also to protect the structure.
Did anyone on your client's end of things look into, or maybe the contractor, how long it would take to create the wooden replacement product to do the work that we're talking about?
The contractor's not here, but, and I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it was his testimony to Harb that it was a minimum of 3 days to attempt to have the woodwork milled. So a minimum of 3, it could have been longer.
Last question. Did anyone from your client's, as I say, end of things, contractor or otherwise, when this problem was discovered, go to the borough, come to the borough and say, we've run into this unanticipated problem with the deteriorated wood. We're thinking about using the AZAC as opposed to in kind with real wood?
I don't know that I can answer that completely accurately, but I believe that the way it transpired was that the borough sent their inspector out because someone had indicated that they had seen the application of a portion of AZAC. So when the incident was discovered versus when the borough was aware, I believe was only probably a 24-hour period. Because after the borough discovered it and came out and sent their inspector out, the AZAC had not been installed. Only one small portion of the AZAC had been installed.
All right. And just to be clear with my question and the answer you just gave, the borough was not contacted before the AZAC was installed, even a little bit of it?
No.
Okay.
No, they weren't.
Any other questions from council? Any discussion?
And the only thing I would add is, as I said, there were many attachments from other HARB reviews that permitted AZAC, but
These are in other locations, though, not in Newtown Borough.
absolutely not in Newtown Borough. However, I would direct the council's attention to the city of Plano, where they discussed the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, and note that the AZAC would be permitted.
Yeah. Well, that was in a different location, though.
I
Another
agree it's a
town.
different location.
Another
It's
town.
also a new material, and I guess my point is that as new materials become available, we're requesting that HARB consider those new materials.
Okay, John, do you want to make a motion?
Just a quick comment. I did reach out to Mary Lou because I know that conversation did take place about the city and